The showpiece of Thursday afternoon is without doubt the World Hurdle, a gruelling 3-mile test over hurdles, and one horse who's risen from the flames and just keeps rising all season is Thistlecrack, who's proved me wrong, winning at Newbury, then winning the Long Walk, and then winning the Cleve. He's even money, 11-10 favourite now. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. Does it deserve to be 11-10 favourite, Claude?
I think he does on what he's done. It's an amazing performance. The last one, when he won the Cleve Hurdle, Tom Schumann was sitting on him, was like Pat Taff on Arkle. He never moved a muscle.
We could have duct taped you to it and he probably would have got round that.
I'm surprised he had the cheek to charge a jockey's fee, because it was an absolutely superb performance.
It was.
And I think one of the joys of this season has been seeing the Colin Tizard Yard, the way they've bounced back with Q Card and then with this horse, and they go to Cheltenham with two arguably good chances for a man who sort of 10 years ago only took out a licence so his son could ride in a few point-to-points. He's really joined the big Premier Division this year.
It's not too late for us, Claude. I'll ride him, you train him.
Thank you very much. I thought Thistlecrack, he's going to be a very short price favourite, but I can't see any of these. I know, talking Warren Greatrex at the National Weights lunch the other day, and he was making very, very spirited noises about Cool Harden, but the rest of them really. There is more than a whisper from Seven Barrows, from that distinguished former champion trainer Nicky Henderson, that Whisper's going to bounce back and do his stuff, and he's a spring horse, as Captain Ryan Price used to say on his way to the Jockey Club to be warned off. I think that I'd be amazed if Whisper, for what he's done this season, I think he's sort of, I wouldn't have thought 25-1 was that generous, but I know the Henderson camp think that he could bounce back.
On the form of entry last year.
You're going to get yourself in trouble, please.
I don't know what to say really. Thistlecrack, he stays, which is the key here. He seems to get better the further the race goes on. At Cheltenham last time, I remember thinking to myself as they came to the second last, he's in trouble here. They're all stacking up behind him, and then they disappeared. He just went away from them, and he seems to travel better than ever. He seems to quicken and just go away from them and run them into the ground. He's going to be very, very hard to beat. It again comes down to price. 11-10 in a Grade 1. Incidentally, he'd be odds on if he was trained by Mullins. You know, he wouldn't be odds against. So that's a salvage of something.
A rarity. We've got a short price favourite that isn't trained by
Mullins. I would say, the one I like is Alpha de Zobo. The price has gone a bit. He's now only 13-2. He was 20s a few months ago. This is a horse who has got form tied in with Thistlecrack. He was the horse that fell at the last at Aintree when coming to challenge Thistlecrack. Arguably not getting the better of that contest at the time, but was still thereabouts. Arguably, Luke. But there is such a disparity in their prices that I would rather give Alpha de Zobo, who Mouse Morris is a genius of trading around Cheltenham. If you just look at the stats, I don't have them, but if you look at his stats of horses he sent to Cheltenham in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they all run their races. And I think he'll have Alpha de Zobo primed to run a lung burster here. And for me, each way at 13-2, I would rather side with him than 11-10 Thistlecrack.
Well, I know you like your Twitter, Bill. For the millions of people watching, Bill, you can promise them that you'll have the Mouse Morris stats up on your Twitter by the end of the week.
By the end of the festival, I'll have them. No problem.
Right, Tanya, 13-8 Alpha de Zobo, second or third, or 11-10 Thistlecrack to win the race.
My concern with Alpha de Zobo is the way he jumps the final fence. I know we can easily say at Aintree he fell at the final fence, but if you look at subsequent starts, he has got a tendency to pitch at the final fences. Certainly in the Christmas hurdle. In Ireland he did, and even in the Galmoy hurdle when he defeated Martello Tower, when he comes to that last fence, you are sort of gasping, heart in mouth, which is not ideal. So
I used to like to pitch at the last. And
so when you say, do you want to back Alpha de Zobo each way, if only you knew he'd get over the final hurdle. I certainly wouldn't want to be on Cole Harden. It's not the same Cole Harden he's been running abysmal, and he's going to try and make all, and he's going to try and make all against actual stayers this year, horses that really stay on strongly and be ready to pounce on him, whereas he had nothing to that last year. And then
He was He was beaten in his 2 starts prior to the festival last year, and well beaten at Cheltenham, wasn't he, earlier in the year?
But it was really bad behind camping ground.
Yeah, he didn't seem capable of winning a world hurdle last year, given his 2 results. This year
he had a wind up.
Yeah,
we had.
That was the salvage last year.
And then I don't mind the Obeaux Swan one-hit wonder raid. He did it in the Coral Cup last year. I mean, but this is going up plenty levels to try and do it in one of the big championship races.
Up in trip.
Up in trip. And then recently we saw Different Gravy. Whether that we don't know where that's going to turn up. I mean, Nicky was teasing everyone when we saw him. He could turn up in a World Hurdle, Different Gravy, but it should be Thistle Crack on, in all honesty. Or what we've seen on the
your first footman, Andy Stewart, he's got Safia de Rey in this race.
Well, they're running out of options for Safia de Rey, aren't they? They're talking about all sorts of races for him. I'd love to see him win, but I couldn't advise it, I'm afraid.
You're going to tell Molesley not to run it in this race, then, are you?
Well, no, he has been a bit of a talking horse, hasn't he? And he's been found out more than once.
Oh, he was well beaten in the long walk, wasn't he? And he was well back for the Hennessy as well. He's well beaten. I think he's one to avoid massively for me, I must admit. I like Alfred Obeaux. You know as well as I do that we were all over at Aintree that day when it fell. It's done nothing wrong this season. I think it's still a reasonable price at 13-2, simply because there's not a lot in behind it. Obeaux Swan hasn't had a run. Cole Harden's not the same. Safia de Rey, we know we don't want to be anywhere near that. Whisper, you certainly don't want to be anywhere near that. Snow Falcon, I wouldn't have thought it was good enough. Martello Tower, I don't know if it runs. So in behind the front 2, there really isn't a lot in the race. And I think Alfred Obeaux could be a really, really nice price. I've been wrong every time about Thistle Crack. I will be wrong again, and it'll probably win. But for me, just quickly, decisions, I'll be with Alfred Obeaux. Claude?
Thistle Crack.
Alfred Obeaux.
Thistle Crack will win, and I'll just have a saver on Obeaux Swan, just because it'll just come in there, one-hit wonder raid. It would annoy me if it would win. It would really, really annoy me.
Well, that's 2-2 in the World Hurdle. So with whatever you back, good luck. Come and see us at Tats or in the bottom rail at Cheltenham.